In the summer of 1944, somewhere above the Eastern Front, a Soviet attack aircraft screamed through a storm of bullets and smoke. Its wings were shredded, its engine burned, the cockpit filled with fire and metal, and inside it was a woman. Not a passenger, not a nurse, not a symbol, a pilot. Anna Yegorova did not jump from her aircraft that day. She was thrown from it. The plane, torn apart by German fire, broke violently as it crashed, hurling her body across the battlefield like wreckage. Soldiers who saw it fall believed no human could survive. But Anna Yegorova did. And that moment would become only one chapter in a story of survival that defied everything war tried to take from her. World War II heroes are often remembered for how many enemies they killed. Anna Yegorova is remembered for something far rarer. She survived what should have killed her, then returned to fight again. She was a woman in a world dominated by men, a pilot in a war where pilots were hunted, a prisoner in enemy hands who refused to break, a survivor who refused to disappear. Her story is not about victory from strength alone, but victory from endurance. Anna Alexandrovna Yegorova was born in 1916 in Russia during a time when aviation itself was still a miracle. The sky was not yet a battlefield. Airplanes were still symbols of progress and possibility. From a young age, Anna looked upward, not in wonder, but in ambition. While other children dreamed of safety, Anna dreamed of flight. She grew up in a Soviet society that publicly promoted equality, but privately still doubted women's place in combat roles. Yet aviation clubs were opening across the USSR, and Anna seized the opportunity. She joined civilian flight programs long before war forced her into uniform. To her, flying was not rebellion, it was purpose. When Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, the world Anna knew collapsed overnight. Cities burned, armies retreated, millions fled eastward. Anna did not flee. She volunteered. At a time when women were expected to serve as nurses, clerks, or factory workers, Anna demanded something more dangerous. She asked to fly combat missions. Not in glamorous fighters, not in fast interceptors, but in the Il-2 Sturmovik, the most heavily armored, most brutally targeted aircraft of the Eastern Front. The Germans called it the flying tank. Pilots called it the coffin with wings. Anna chose it anyway. Her training was relentless. She learned how to fly low over enemy positions, how to fire rockets and cannons into tanks, how to navigate through flak storms, how to land damaged aircraft under fire. But she also trained for something more brutal. To watch friends die in the sky, to see planes explode beside her, to continue flying when fear clawed at every nerve. Instructors doubted women could handle attack aviation. Anna proved them wrong again and again. She was not just competent, she was relentless. When Anna flew her first combat missions, there was no slow introduction. She was sent directly into the most dangerous role in Soviet aviation, low-altitude ground attack. Her aircraft flew so close to the battlefield that she could see faces below. German machine guns tore through the air around her. Anti-aircraft shells burst like steel storms. There was no invisibility in attack aviation, no escape altitude, no room for error. Every mission was a gamble with death, and Anna kept returning.
It wasn't recklessness that defined Anna Yegorova. It was precision. She learned to strike quickly, withdraw decisively, protect her aircraft, coordinate with ground troops. She became known not just as a brave pilot, but a reliable one. And in war, reliability is more valuable than heroics. Among Il-2 pilots, survival rates were terrifyingly low. Many pilots lasted only a few missions. Yet Anna continued flying sortie after sortie, gaining not just experience, but respect. She was not treated as a novelty. She was treated as a pilot. That alone was a victory in a war where women had to fight for the right to fight. By 1944, Anna Yegorova was no longer just another pilot. She was a veteran. She had survived countless flak barrages, destroyed enemy positions, escorted fellow pilots home, flown through storms of fire and smoke. But the war was not done testing her. The sky had not yet demanded its greatest price, and soon it would. By 1943, the Eastern Front had become a moving furnace. Cities changed hands in blood. Villages vanished, forests burned, and above it all, the sky had become its own battlefield, one without trenches, without shelter, and without mercy. For Il-2 pilots like Anna Yegorova, war was not fought at altitude. It was fought low, where machine guns could reach her cockpit, and tank crews could track her movements with naked eyes. Each mission demanded she descend into a corridor of death. And yet, mission after mission, she did. The first months of combat separated those who merely survived from those who mastered the air. Anna became the second. She learned how German defenses worked, how flak batteries tracked incoming aircraft, how fighters waited for Sturmoviks to slow down on attack runs, how smoke and terrain could be used as cover, how timing mattered more than speed. She adapted not by instinct alone, but by observation. Every flight taught her something new, and every lesson kept her alive. The Il-2 was armored like a tank, but that armor came at a cost. It was slow, heavy, hard to maneuver, and always within reach of enemy fire. Pilots joked grimly that if the Il-2 ever flew too high, it was lost, and if it flew too low, it was doomed. Anna learned how to balance between those two deaths. She learned to fly just high enough to survive and just low enough to strike. As Anna's missions accumulated, German defenses began to recognize patterns. The Luftwaffe knew Sturmovik pilots were critical to Soviet ground advances, and they hunted them relentlessly. Enemy fighters targeted Il-2 formations first. Anti-aircraft gunners trained specifically to predict their flight paths. Every mission now came with the understanding she was not just flying into danger, she was being waited for. Combat aviation was not just physical, it was psychological. Between missions, pilots waited in silence. They watched empty bunks remain empty. They saw names erased from rosters. They heard engines return without their pilots. Anna learned to live with that tension. She learned how to eat with the sound of explosions still ringing in her ears, sleep knowing tomorrow might not come, smile in brief moments of peace that felt undeserved. The sky was killing her comrades, yet she kept going back. Some pilots flew for glory. Some flew for survival. Anna flew because she believed the ground troops needed her. She saw columns of soldiers advancing under fire. She saw tanks burning. She saw wounded infantry retreating. And she understood something many pilots never did. Her aircraft was not just a weapon, it was protection. Her rockets could clear a path. Her cannon fire could save lives. Her presence above the battlefield gave soldiers hope. And hope was as valuable as ammunition. Long before her legendary crash, Anna survived moments that should have ended her story. Once, flak shattered her wing. She landed with barely functional controls. Another time, enemy fighters chased her aircraft through clouds. She escaped only by flying into a storm no German dared follow. She survived forced landings. She survived engine failures. She survived fuel loss. Each survival built a dangerous belief that maybe she was untouchable. War often encourages that illusion until it shatters. Within her unit, Anna was known not for recklessness, but reliability. She was the pilot others trusted to cover their withdrawal, stay in formation, not abandon wounded aircraft, return fire under pressure. She did not chase personal victories. She protected her squadron. That made her indispensable, and it made her a target. By 1944, Soviet forces were advancing. The Germans were retreating, but retreating dangerously. Desperate enemies fight harder. They ambush, they trap, they lure. Airspace became deadlier than ever. German anti-aircraft networks grew thicker. Fighter patrols increased. The sky closed in. And Anna Yegorova kept flying into it, unaware that soon fate would demand a price no training could prepare her for. On that day in 1944, Anna Yegorova lifted her aircraft into the air, expecting nothing extraordinary. Another sortie, another ground attack mission, another flight through smoke and fire. She had done this countless times before. The objective was clear: strike enemy positions ahead of advancing Soviet troops, suppress German artillery, clear the path. To Anna, this was not heroism. This was duty. And yet, the sky had other plans. As her Il-2 formation descended toward the target, the battlefield opened beneath them like a wound. Columns of smoke rose from burning armor. Explosions rattled the air. Machine gun fire stitched lines across the sky. Anna lined up her attack run. She lowered her nose. She aligned her sights. She fired. The rockets screamed downward. The cannons roared. And in that moment, the German defenses answered. Anti-aircraft fire erupted from below. Not scattered, not random, precise. Shells burst dangerously close. Shrapnel tore through the air. The sky filled with invisible blades. One explosion struck close enough to rip metal from her aircraft. Her cockpit shuddered violently. The controls resisted her touch. The engine began to scream. Anna tried to pull away, but the plane was already dying. A second explosion tore through the fuselage. Fire surged through the engine housing. Smoke filled the cockpit. She could no longer see clearly. The aircraft began to lose altitude. And then came the impact. The plane slammed into the earth, not in a controlled landing, but in a violent, tearing collision that broke the aircraft apart. Anna was thrown from it, not jumping, not escaping, thrown. Her body hurled across the battlefield like debris. To anyone watching, it would have looked like the end. When she regained consciousness, Anna was barely aware she was alive. Her body was shattered. Her skull was fractured. Her limbs burning and bleeding. She had suffered severe head trauma, multiple fractures, shrapnel wounds, massive internal injuries. Her survival defied medical logic. Even German soldiers who found her believed she would die within hours. But Anna Yegorova refused. German troops reached her before Soviet forces could. She was unconscious, covered in blood, barely breathing, and yet she was still breathing. They took her prisoner, not as a warrior, but as a body barely clinging to life. She was transported to a German military hospital. There, doctors treated her wounds, not out of mercy, but out of necessity, because a Soviet pilot was valuable alive. When Anna could speak again, the interrogations began. Not brutal at first, not violent, calculated. They wanted unit information, base locations, squadron strength, Soviet tactics. But Anna said nothing. She endured questioning while still barely able to sit upright. Every word she withheld was a victory. Many believed her war ended the moment her plane crashed, but Anna soon realized the battlefield had only changed shape. Now the war was fought in silence, in patience, in refusal. She was no longer a pilot, she was a prisoner, and survival now demanded something different, not aggression, but endurance. As she lay in captivity, she faced a different enemy, not flak, not fighters, not fire, but isolation. Days passed without sunlight, weeks without freedom, months without certainty. She did not know if she would be exchanged, if she would be executed, or if she would disappear into the camps forever. Yet even then, she refused to spare, because surrender to Anna was not death, surrender was silence, and she would not be silent. For Anna Yegorova, captivity was not the end of combat. It was the beginning of a different kind. She had survived falling from the sky. Now she had to survive being erased from it. No cockpit, no engines, no radio calls, only walls and silence. The transition from combat pilot to prisoner was violent not only physically, but mentally. One day she commanded a war machine. The next, she lay in a hospital bed under guard. Used to the noise of engines and explosions, Anna now faced something far worse: stillness. In that stillness, memories screamed louder than any battlefield. The Germans did not see her merely as a wounded soldier. They saw a female pilot, a rare prisoner, a propaganda opportunity, a potential intelligence source. She was valuable and dangerous, which meant she would not be treated like ordinary POWs. The questioning began slowly. Officers asked her unit, her commanders, her base locations, Soviet aviation tactics. They tried to appear polite, civil, reasonable, but beneath every question was a threat: answer or suffer. Anna responded with silence, not defiance, not anger, silence, because silence in captivity is power. When words failed, methods changed. She was transferred between facilities, between hospitals, between camps. Each move meant different guards, different rules, different dangers. Some tried intimidation, others humiliation, others patience. None succeeded. The Germans rarely beat her. They did something worse. They isolated her. Isolation breaks soldiers faster than violence. Days passed without conversation, weeks without news, months without hope. They wanted her to forget who she was, why she fought, that she was still a soldier. But Anna refused to forget. She repeated names in her mind, replayed flights, reconstructed missions. As long as she remembered, she still existed. There were moments when her body betrayed her. Her injuries caused constant pain, weakness, dizziness, nightmares. But her mind did not surrender. She began observing her captors the way she once observed enemy aircraft. Who was careless? Who was cruel? Who was indifferent? Even unarmed, she studied the enemy.
because a soldier never stops learning. As a female pilot in captivity, Anna faced a different threat. She was alone among men, alone among enemies. Yet she maintained something more powerful than strength: dignity. She refused humiliation. She refused to break posture. She refused to allow them to define her. That defiance unsettled them more than rage ever could. There were nights when silence became unbearable, when pain returned, when hunger gnawed, when the thought of her squadron burned inside her chest. She wondered, had they survived? Did they think she was dead? Would she ever see the sky again? These questions tormented her. But each morning she rose, not because she was strong, but because she refused to disappear. Though imprisoned, Anna resisted in ways the Germans could not detect. She withheld intelligence, refused propaganda, rejected cooperation, maintained discipline. She did not sabotage physically, she sabotaged spiritually. She denied them the victory of submission. As the war shifted, so did the atmosphere in the camps. German morale weakened. Guards grew nervous. Allied forces closed in. Anna sensed it. The war was coming back for her, but not as a pilot, as a survivor. For Anna, the end of combat did not come with her plane's destruction. It came years later, in stages. The crash that should have killed her, months of recovery in German hospitals, months of captivity, months of isolation and psychological torment. Her body was battered, her mind was exhausted. Her spirit, however, remained unbroken. Survival had become a daily mission, just as dangerous and demanding as any combat sortie. When Soviet forces finally liberated the camps, Anna was weak, scarred, and almost unrecognizable to herself. But the moment she walked out of those gates, she regained something she had feared lost forever: freedom. Yet she returned to a world that had moved on without her. Friends, comrades, even fellow pilots assumed her dead. Her unit had mourned her. Her name had been etched among the missing. She was alive, and now she had to find a place in a world that had survived while she had barely. Back home, Anna Yegorova faced the paradox of survival. She was a hero, yet no one fully understood the war she had fought in the shadows. She did not march in parades. She did not seek public attention. She did not write memoirs. Instead, she lived quietly, returning to her roots as a pilot and mentor. She trained new generations of aviators. She taught them not just how to fly, but how to endure. Every lesson carried the weight of the sky she had fallen from and survived. Anna's injuries never fully healed. She carried scars from the crash and the shrapnel wounds that nearly killed her. Her body bore reminders of every near-death experience, every flak explosion, every forced landing. And yet, she used those scars as testimony. They were proof that the human spirit can endure when the body falters. They were proof that courage is measured not by moments of glory, but by the will to keep moving forward when all seems lost. Anna Yegorova's heroism did not go unnoticed. She received the Order of the Red Banner, one of the Soviet Union's highest military honors. She earned multiple combat awards for her sorties over the Eastern Front. Her survival, combined with her contributions to Soviet aviation, made her a symbol of resilience. Yet Anna did not define herself by awards. She defined herself by having flown, having survived, and having never surrendered, in the sky or in captivity. Anna's story resonates far beyond WWII. She represents unseen courage, facing danger without spectacle, endurance under impossibility, surviving what most would not. Women in combat, proving gender did not determine bravery or skill. Mentorship, shaping future generations of pilots. She showed that heroism is not only about combat victories, it is also about surviving, adapting, and teaching others to rise from the ashes of impossible circumstances. Later in life, Anna would often reflect on the planes she flew, on the comrades she lost, on the moments when life hung by a thread. She did not fly into battle again after the crash, but in her mind she soared. Every flight she had ever taken became a metaphor for survival and freedom. For those who knew her story, Anna Yegorova was not just a pilot. She was proof that even when thrown from the sky, one could rise again, stronger, wiser, and unbroken. Her story teaches us courage is tested not only in combat, but in survival. Resistance is not always loud. Sometimes it is enduring quietly. Heroism is as much about perseverance as it is about daring. Anna Yegorova survived what few could imagine. She endured what most would not, and she returned carrying her story like a torch, a silent reminder that the human spirit can soar even after it has fallen. Her life is not just history, it is inspiration. Picture Anna decades after the war, walking on a quiet runway, watching a new generation of pilots take off. Her eyes calm, her scars hidden beneath her uniform, her past carved into her being, but her gaze fixed on the horizon. The sky that once threatened to claim her had become a place of memory, triumph, and quiet mastery. And in that sky, she remains immortal.